Nick, is the Knicks' summer a failure if drafting RJ Barrett is all that they do?
Listen, I like Scott Perry and I have a ton of respect for Steve Mills, and I think they are doing things the smart way in New York. But yes, you don't trade away Kristaps Porzingis because you want to draft RJ Barrett. You trade away Kristaps Porzingis, you open up all this cap space. You do all of that with, yeah, we're going to get a blue-chip prospect in this year's draft because we're going to have one of, and they ended up having the worst record in basketball. We are fine with that. But we are going to then try to put this rebuild into supersonic mode by drafting a guy who I guess was drafted by the Supersonics, or by signing a guy in Kevin Durant. I mean, and now it doesn't have to be KD. It could be Kawhi, and given KD's injury, Kawhi actually might be the better option. But the Knicks have a very clear plan. And if that plan ends up being derailed because Kevin Durant came back to play too early, because Kevin Durant, sports-wise, tragically shredded his Achilles tendon, it won't be their fault, but it will still be a failure. Like, not all failures do you have to blame someone for. It's not always someone screwed up. Sometimes you just get incredibly unlucky. But the plan is you get a guy at number 3, you sign one of the very best players in the world. Ideally, someone else comes with that guy, but that part doesn't have to happen. But yeah, if the Knicks walk out of this offseason without one of the very top free agents, KD at the top of the list, along with Kawhi, and then you could argue Kyrie and Kimba, if they go 0 for 4 on those, then I think the Knicks would feel like, even if they don't blame themselves for it, this summer that we have built for a few years ended up going as poorly as we could have imagined.
This is tough for the Knicks, and we talked a lot yesterday and the last week about Danny Ainge and the inability to get deals done. That's what pro sports is about. Now, you can prognosticate, you can guess, but it's about who gets the deals done, who end up landing the player. Last year, everyone was talking about where LeBron's going to go. The Lakers got it done, regardless of what the chaos, magic, whoever you want to give credit for, that's where LeBron wanted to. They end up landing LeBron James. And this was the summer that they were going to land at least Kevin Durant and another superstar. And RJ, it's not his fault. He wants to be a Knick. Part of the reason why you got to trade Kristaps is because he didn't want to be a Knick long-term, regardless of what people say. There's enough credible evidence that he didn't want to be it. So that's refreshing. But you don't put that young player at Madison Square Garden unless you have at least one of the other premier scorers that we have. Because I believe RJ can be an elite scorer in the NBA. He did something that we haven't seen in college basketball done in the last 25 years. 22, 7, and 4. 22 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists. Have not seen it done. Nick's always, hey, man, he's one of something.
Yeah.
This dude is one of one. And just imagine what he would learn over the next 3 or 4 years if Kevin Durant was there, if Kyrie Irving was there. Imagine him as your 3rd or 4th best offensive option, because you can say what you want. You might not like his game, but he came to play every night at Duke. Nick mentioned he just turned 19 last week. He's an accomplished scorer. He can create his own shot. He's got a shot that's not broken. He's got to be able to shoot higher percentage from the free throw line. And, of course, he's got to get better for shooting the 3 ball. But as far as a college basketball player and transitioning, I believe he's going to be able to score and score the basketball well in the NBA.
And with that all-around game, the comp, and it's not just because he's a lefty, the best-case scenario comp's obviously James Harden. It's what people have talked about with him. Durant obviously played with Harden. This was the guy that was the #1 recruit in his draft class, a higher recruit than Zion, a guy that 8 months ago everyone thought would be the #1 pick of the draft. So the Knicks, I know Knicks fans were all devastated that they didn't get the 14% chance of getting the #1 overall pick. RJ Barrett is excellent value at number 3, and I think will be a very good pro. But the plan was not to draft. The plan was not what Memphis is right now. Tear it all down, build around your blue chip lottery pick, and do it slowly. The plan is get a superstar. And no matter what, if they get Durant, the plan's going to be delayed by a year, but you can deal with that because you haven't mortgaged your future picks. You could potentially be in this position again, and that would be fine. But if you walk out of this, if come July 8th, you're like, are we going to have to offer a max contract to Nikola Vucevic? so we don't end up striking out, then that's a disaster. And again, I want to make this clear. I think the Knicks made all the smart moves. You move off Kristaps because, as Chris is saying, he didn't want to be there, but also it allowed you to move off bad contracts. It allowed you to open up cap space, and you get picks from the Mavericks moving forward for extra artillery if you want to make a trade years down the line. But you have to land one of these guys, or else this is going to feel like, even if it's not, it's going to feel like for Knicks fans, same old. Just like we were in it for LeBron, just like we were in it for these guys, we aren't able to land the star that we need.
Maybe not for Knicks fans, but see, what do you think the Knicks organization perception of where they're at would be if Kevin Durant is the only one that they do sign? As Knicks say, it's delayed, but you're still getting your top guy. How do you think they would view the way this offseason then had gone?
The Knicks are willing to have patience. They kind of discussed with me, you remember Prop 48, when the kid didn't have the right entrance scores, he couldn't play typically for a year, or sometimes in January he was able to play? That's the way they look at it. They'll put him on the shelf till he's ready to play. They're willing to be patient with him. They believe in Kevin Durant. And if they don't sign two superstars, their situation would be to sign Kevin Durant and then look for some players like Marcus Morris, other guys that won't eat up all that cap space, veterans who've worked hard, who the Knicks, they have a list of guys in that category that they have a lot of respect for and want to bring them in to teach these younger players how to play.
And guys that in a year, along with whatever the Knicks lottery pick would be next season, plus some of those Mavericks picks, you could flip for whatever I'm sure there's going to be a superstar that says, I don't want to be here anymore somewhere around the league. We're on 3 straight years of that happening, and you do it that way. If the Knicks get Kevin Durant, this entire process was worth it. Even waiting a year. If all they get is Kevin Durant, this entire process was worth it. I do not believe Kevin Durant's going to come back and all of a sudden be a poor man's Rudy Gay. I think Kevin Durant's going to come back and be one of the 5 best players in basketball. Is he going to be the apex version of himself we saw before? We don't know that. But 85% of Kevin Durant is better than 98% of everyone in the NBA.
And Kevin Durant will be motivated like no other time in his career.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.